This presentation is going to look at reading the scale on a Sealey VS056 brake disc caliper. So whilst the Sealey brake disc caliper is very similar to most Vernier calipers, there are a couple of key differences. And we'll go through those in just a second. The picture you've got in front of you here, you can actually see all the main parts. But there's a couple of key differences are the measuring pins and the floating pin that we can see indicated here. And looking at those measuring pins first, the big difference here is we've got a pointed contact rather than a flat jaw as we would have on a normal Vernier caliper. Now the reason for this is that we're trying to measure the thinnest part of the disc, not as we would if we had a standard jaw from a normal Vernier caliper, which would only measure the highest point, not giving us a real reading of how far worn that brake disc is. The other difference is that floating pin. That floating pin is there to allow the sliding jaw to move back without affecting the reading. That's going to be really important if we're measuring a brake disc that has a lip on the outer edge from wear. Now that's going to mean that there is a chance to actually take an incorrect reading with these calipers. So it's really important that you actually slide the vernier scale all the way back and then pinch the jaws together in the direction of those arrows there when you're taking the reading. So if you end up taking the reading with the floating pin in this position, your reading is going to be way out of what the actual reading should be. A slightly unusual feature of the Sealey VS056 is the scale on the main scale is actually in centimeters. This does mean that each one of these represents 1 centimeter, which isn't that useful to us. Remember, brake discs are measured in millimeters, not centimeters. So it's important that when we're taking a reading, we do bear that in mind and we actually multiply each of these by 10 to turn it into millimeters. The only other thing to bear in mind is that these calipers are actually accurate to 0.1 millimeter. And whilst there are calipers that are much more accurate than this, this is completely suitable for the brake disc measurements that we're going to take. So now let's have a look and see how you actually take a reading of the scale. Now the first thing we're going to want to do is actually take our millimeter reading off the main scale. And the way we do that is we use the 0 line on the Vernier scale, indicated by a circle on the diagram here. And we count the millimeters off the main scale up to but no further than that 0 line. Now to help us with that counting, halfway between each centimeter marking there is a raised line which indicates a 5 mil. So we can count off here starting at 25, 26, 27, 28. So we can see that 0 line is just past the 28, but it hasn't got to the 29 millimeter mark yet. So our reading is going to be 28 millimeters point something. We don't know what yet. We're going to move on and have a look at that in the next slide. So to improve the accuracy, what we're going to do next is we're going to use the Vernier scale. So that is the 0510 Vernier scale you can see lined or circled here. What we're after here is we're looking to see which of the lines lines up best with the lines on the main scale above it. And looking here, we can see that the 3 mark has just gone past 31, the 5 is just underneath 33, and that the 4 is pretty good. It's almost exactly in line. And that gives us a reading of 0.4 on the Vernier scale. Now the only thing we've got left to do is add that to our 28 reading we got first. And that gives us a reading of 28.4 millimeter. Now there is one type of reading that can actually differ slightly from that, although not very much, And we're just going to run through that now, just in case you come across it when you're in the workshop. So exactly the same as before, what we're going to do is we're going to use the 0 line, and we're going to count the millimeters up to but not past that 0 line on the vernier scale. So I can see 10, 11, 12 millimeters at that point. Just here. Again, as in the previous example, what we're going to do then is we're going to transfer down and look at the vernier scale. And again, we're looking for the lines that line up best with the main scale indicators. Problem is here, there's not actually just one that's lining up. We've got two lining up. And that's these two, 0 and 10. So do we add 0 or do we add 10? Well, the way that vernier calipers work is that if you've got these two lined up, the 0 and the 10, we go back to our 0 line, and whatever millimeter that is on, that is the actual reading, or at least as close as the vernier calipers can read. So in this case, that gives us a reading of 12.0 millimeters. So having had a look at how you do this, what we've got next is a few examples for you to try yourself. Try this example to start with. Pause the video if you need longer. So on this example, the 0 line has gone past the 20 millimeter mark, but not quite to the 21. Looking at the vernier scale, we can see the 0.9 is lined up, giving us a reading of 20.9 millimeters. Have a go at the next one. Pause the video if you need more time. In this example, we've actually got the 0 that's gone just past the 21. We then refer to the vernier scale, and the 1 is lined up with the 22 on the main scale, so that gives us 21.1 millimeters. Try the last example. Remember to pause the video if you need more time. So in this case, exactly the same as we've done previously. We start off looking on the main scale, see which the 0 line on the vernier scale has gone past, and we can see 10, 11, so it's just past the 11 there. We then start looking on the vernier scale to see which line on the vernier scale is in line with the line on the main scale, and in this case it's the 5 directly in line, and that gives us our 11.5 millimeters. So that is how you read the scale on the VS056 brake disc caliper. I hope that's been useful to you, and thanks very much for watching.